Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. And yeah, we got another short week. Except it's not a good one. And it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. Well, now I just feel stupid. The past couple of weeks I've been predicting these huge album bombs disrupting the Hot 100 throughout October, and now we're over halfway through the month and it just hasn't happened. Instead, it's going to be another short week. I'm not complaining, given my backlog, and with Lil Baby coming next week, it's not gonna last, but I'm gonna say it's kinda surprising. But alright, fine. Top 10. Where Bad Habit by Steve Lacy holds on to the number one for another week. But it's tenuous. The streaming's still strong, the radio's on the upswing, but it's gonna get overtaken on the margins. And that's likely not good, because the song set to do it is Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras at number 2. It rules streaming and sales, and the radio is surging to make up the margin. It is set to go to number 1, and frankly, I don't know what the hell that can stop it. It's not like As It Was by Harry Styles is making another run at number 3. It's been wavering on the radio peak, and while it's not losing ground, it's not really gaining it either, although it did hold up over I Like You, a Happier Song by Post Malone and Doja Cat at number 4, which slammed hard into its radio peak, which is the majority of what it's got. Now, what worries me more here is You Proof by Morgan Wallen up to number 5, which saw a pickup on streaming even as its radio still has not hit a peak, although while I ain't worried by One Republic held at number 6 as its radio stalled out, it all might be more due to Sunroof by Nicki Yor and Daisy sliding to number 7 as its radio is now firmly on the downswing. Then we got Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj at number 8. Yeah, it's got a radio run, but it's dipping on streaming, and that kind of makes it a bit vulnerable to The Kind of Love We Make by Luke Combs at number 9, which I'd say is more stable on streaming, but it also hit a radio peak. Finally, breaking into the top 10, we've got Vegas by Doja Cat at number 10. I gotta admit, I'm legit surprised this has had as much staying power as it has, especially in comparison with a movie that seems to have come and gone, thank God for that. But that's also what happens when you've got a lot of staying power on the radio, and precisely nowhere else. Now that neatly takes us to our losers and dropouts, and for a slow week we actually had a couple big ones. Effecto by Bad Bunny and Like I Love Country Music by Kane Brown, they handily clinched their year-end list spots for 2022, and Bones by Imagine Dragons and Ghost Story by Carrie Underwood look like they're going to be falling short. And there's not much in our losers here either. Off the debut, Toxic by YG hit 94. We saw continued losses for Break My Soul by Beyonce at 61, and Put It On Me by YoungBoy Never Broke Again to 93, and the expected slow drop-off for Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush down to 45. And hey, at least Truth About You by Mitchell Tenpenny didn't really catch on. It's now on the way out at 89. That's a positive. Now for our gains and returns, where it feels like we've got even less. The one return is Hotel Lobby Unkin Few by Quavo and Takeoff down to 76, one of their 2 limited impacts their album had on the charts. And for our gains, okay, no, seriously, who is still giving No Se Va by Grupo Frontera more attention? It's all the way up at 57. Now the rest of our gains, they're actually all in country. Off the debut, Tennessee Orange by Megan Morani spiked up to 75 after Tennessee beat Alabama. I can see this getting another spike next week. And we saw some modest gains for Thank God by Kane Brown and Caitlin Brown to 26, and Down Home by Jimmy Allen to 88. To me, this feels like country's just rotating in for the next season. It's going to be interesting to see what sticks around and survives the next round of album bombs to come. But thankfully, we are not quite there yet, so let's get to our very limited list of new arrivals. Unfortunately, starting with number 100, Wock by Kodak Black.
I kick the bitch out the G, told her walk. Yeah, I jump on these beats and I walk. Slide, keep on sliding, walk. Object, keep on down, walk. Spin round, walk. Step down, walk.
Hey, do y'all know that Kodak Black has an album coming in less than 2 weeks? Better question, I know this dude's got a bewilderingly large fan base, but I've heard shockingly little hype for this. Does anyone really care that much? Well anyway, here's the single. And honestly, there is a bit of potential. The strings arrangement behind the trap percussion is actually really well balanced. It's ominous. And I'll give Kodak this, he rides the groove effectively as he switches up his flow. It's nothing that impressive, but on a technical level, he has improved over the years. Unfortunately, he's also once again the worst part of his song. I don't like his nasal squawking voice. The content is once again formulaic flexing, slang, and shooting people. Probably not a good sign that he talks about going back to that life right after getting out of jail. And when one of the most notable lines is throwing a girl out of his Jeep and telling her to walk, I mean, he's not all that concerned with being likable. So again, given that he's shown very little interest in changing or evolving over the years beyond a phoned-in redemption narrative, why exactly do I have to care about this? It's not good enough for me to really give a shit. Next. Number 99, Lokera by Rauw, Alejandro, Lyanno, and Brray. Watching the slow rise and success of Rauw Alejandro has been kind of fascinating to me as an outsider to his brand of reggaeton and Latin pop, mostly because he seems to be trying a little bit harder than a lot of his peers, and he's not exactly having the best time with it either. Now, this song's a prime example of those darker, atonal edges creeping in. Yeah, stock reggaeton percussion, but the guitars and the creaking grooves around some of the sirens, they create a more tense, minor key vibe for the sort of flagrant debauchery you might hear on a Future record. Now, these guys are all trying to play more of the villain than a tragic hero or an anti-hero, including the samples asking what the hell is wrong with them, and especially given that all their hookups seem to be with women who are in relationships. And while Lyanno doesn't really differentiate his vocals enough from Rauw Alejandro to really justify his presence, there is a little more going on with this song than I expected. I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna go back to it much, but it's different, and I'm not gonna call it bad. Interesting. Number 83, To the Bone by Quavo, Takeoff, and YoungBoy Never Broke Again.
Come on, wake up, both of us gotta get bags in the morning. Wake up, sneak and link, no, we can't answer the phone.
So I thought that Quavo and Takeoff, that project would land a much bigger impact on the Hot 100. Maybe the moment for Migos has finally faded properly, especially as the biggest new cut needed YoungBoy to nab chart position. And that's honestly kind of a shame, because I like this more than I thought I would. The minimalist but reasonably well-produced trap groove has a bit more swagger and a more interesting bass line, and the spare warbling keys and guitars produce a pretty cool haunted vibe. Now, I can't say the content is anything all that special. Flexing, buying women luxury brands, getting high, the occasional line that is completely out of pocket. The most glaring example being from YoungBoy Never Broke Again with I come and call that leaving my riches. But you know what? The flows are really sharp, and both YoungBoy and especially Takeoff, they brought their A game opposite a really good hook from Quavo. I mean, look, it's nothing outside of the formula, you all know that, but this example within it is solid as hell. I'll take it. Number 77, Heyy by Lil Baby.
Hey, soon as it pop, bro, pull that file. Hey, this her first time coming to my house. Hey, better go hard, girl, this your trials.
And speaking of sticking to the formula, that Lil Baby album bomb is gonna land its proper impact next week, but here's another promotional single that's charting early, and yeah, this was not one of my favorites by any stretch. Beyond the repetitive stuttered word passing as a hook, the sandy percussion, and the faux elegant staccato strings and keys, I think what annoys me more here is just how often Lil Baby is dropping the rhyme scheme. And it's just flagrant at this point, without even slurred over auto-tune to justify it, especially when the flows feel increasingly offbeat and clunky. Now, if the content at least tried to do something more interesting, I might be more forgiving, but a lot of this is just frustrated complaints about girls, flexing, and threesomes. The one thing I like is how Lil Baby emphasizes it's better to be counting money than shooting people, and yes, he's right about that, but Lil Baby still struggles to make any of his luxury rap sound fun. It's all aspiration, but no enjoyment of that moment. Where if there's a new girl, he describes their sex as tryouts. I mean, I have a lot more to say about the album next week, thanks to all the songs charting on Billboard BREAKDOWN. In the meantime, I don't really care for it. Just saying. And finally, number 65, Poland by Lil Yachty.
To Poland, I took the walk to Poland.
I think think folks got the wrong idea in the backlash to Lil Yachty in the mid-2010s. Yeah, he made some truly abysmal music, but at his best he had a creative, oddball sense of humor and melodic flair that was just enough to overcompensate. And it sure as hell was better than the utterly forgettable and derivative trap that he began shoveling out for the next couple of years that also wasn't any good. So when I heard he got a song to go viral based off of something weird or mimetic, I was excited to check this out. And seriously? This is what caused everyone to lose their minds? Are you serious with this? You get a buzzy leftover rage beat from Whole Lotta Red for less than 90 seconds as Yachty croons the "I took the walk to Poland" around a verse that's more half-formed ad-lib than anything else? I'd say it was deserving of a proper meme review, haven't done one of those in a while, but it doesn't feel weird or remixable enough to be worth it. It's trying to go viral. Barely. In other words, it's the worst of both early and late period Lil Yachty. Charming. And yeah, worst of the week by a comfortable margin. I mean, I get what it's trying to do. I get the meme, but it's not weird or interesting enough to be compelling for a runtime less than a minute and a half that already feels drawn out. Now, the best of the week, oh god, I guess To The Bone by Quavo, Takeoff, and YoungBoy Never Broke Again. Nice surprise. I kind of liked it. Next week, though, Lil Baby album bomb. Stay tuned for that. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.